This week, tune into the Paul Finebaum Show as I discuss
the delicious taste of ice cold Dr. Pepper.
Larry Culpepper? Hey, I'm in the middle of a promo.
Sorry, Finey. The fans are craving so much Dr. Pepper, I thought I'd borrow some of your airtime.
Security!
Hey, look, whether you're watching college football or calling into some guy's radio show, Dr. Pepper makes college football that much sweeter. So head to your local Dollar General and grab some today.
Can I have one of yours?
Hey, we got a caller. You're on the Larry Culpepper Show with your host, Larry Culpepper.
That's it.
That's Dr. Pepper, the one fans crave.
Bring your own guts.
This is the best
Do you hear me?
of the Paul Finebaum Show podcast.
Welcome back to the program. Good to have you on board. We have been talking about a number of things here, and let's go to our correspondent in Montgomery, Alabama, covering the biggest. I woke up today watching every newscast in America. From Montgomery and Birmingham, and now let's go to our correspondent, Iman.
Right here with my feet on the ground in the capital city. This is where the whole world has converged today. Not only did Auburn kick Alabama and Georgia's ass both live on TV, now we have commanded the attention of the entire world, and we're talking about the Russians, the Czechoslovakians, and the Soviets. Anybody over there want to know what's going on, you've got to come to Montgomery, Alabama, and get your news today, because Montgomery, Alabama is going to change this country. And you know what, Paul? It's going to change so dynamically that little fella, that Moore guy, he will be out of Alabama politics by 7 o'clock tonight. If you don't vote Doug Jones and vote early and often, get your brothers and your mamas. What's that?
We're good with your endorsement. We heard it yesterday.
Well, I'm just telling you, I did vote for him. Hell did freeze over. I did something that most people aren't free-thinking and independent enough to do. Do your own research and think for yourself.
I'm trying to think of the craziest vote I've ever made.
Probably Shorty Price.
I think I did vote for Shorty once for governor.
Everybody voted for Shorty Price.
Yeah.
You have to. In the state of Alabama, if you didn't vote for Shorty Price once, you weren't allowed to ever vote again. Yeah, you weren't allowed to buy beer.
Yeah, a lot of times I literally walk in there with no idea who I was going to vote for.
If you didn't vote for Shorty Price, the only beer they'd sell you is Pabst Blue Ribbon, and everybody didn't wear white socks and put their cigarettes in their T-shirt like him.
Have you ever written in like a football coach?
No, I'm not going to write anybody in. If they're too damn lazy to get up and go campaign, why would I write somebody in?
That's a good.
That's a good point.
That is a good point.
Why would I pay somebody the kind of money the taxpayers of the state of Alabama paying for somebody that's too damn lazy to get up and go say, vote for me? I'll lie to you every day of the rest of my life. Just vote for me and vote for my family.
I can't remember what the election was a number of years ago. They actually listed in the paper all the people that got write-ins, and obviously Saban was first, but I think I got 14 votes for some office. I can't remember which one it was.
Well, I can imagine that. The stupidest thing I've heard on your show today, Paul, you know what that is? Joe from Red Bay. You think we can have an SEC championship game? You think we can have one, Paul? Come on, Paul. Tell me we can. And you know what, Jim from Tuscaloosa? Kiss my entire bam.
Hey, don't knock Jim. I thought Jim had a very respectful call yesterday, didn't you?
Yeah. Unusual, but it was.
Okay, Chris Vanini, NBC just spoke with an Alabama voter who wrote in Nick Saban. I got news for you, Chris. Is that like an upset or something, that Nick Saban got a vote? Here's what I have to ask. This is the most contested, most publicized senatorial contest in my lifetime, I believe. Have you ever seen anything quite like this?
No.
Hillary Clinton ran for the Senate in New York a number of years ago, and that was a big deal, and other people have run. But this has been, because this is a special election, there's nothing else going on. So for 3 weeks, every political reporter has converged on Alabama. So the question is, you have a very clear choice. You have the Democrat and then the Republican. And then someone is going to say, you know what, I don't know enough about either one of them. I'm voting for Nick Saban. Does that make sense?
To them, yes.
What if Saban actually wins? If elected, Coach, will you serve? You know, I asked Saban a couple years ago. We spent a couple of days together for this profile I did of him. And his best friend is Joe Manchin, who is the senator, former governor of West Virginia. Yes, Saban has friends. And I said, would you ever consider it? And he said, no. He said, it's come up a number of times, but I just do not want to be in public office. Although I think he would be good. Imagine Senator Saban. You know, he's on, like, Meet the Press, gets a question he doesn't like, walks out. So I'm not answering this. I don't know. I think it's rat poison. Don't ask me that question again. It would be hilarious. Anyway, Jim is up next in Tuscaloosa. What about it, Jim?
Yeah, I'm sitting here with a friend from high school, and we're watching your show on TV. I said, listen to this fool. I'm talking about that redneck moron man. I said, lay me the odds on what he will say my name. Oh, yeah, I'm sure he will. So that fool, he has to bring my name, because, you know, Paul, that fool rides me to be famous, trying to ride me to be famous, and he's a moron. You got equal time, I know, right? Equal time for Roy Moore, right? Since that fool endorsed, what's his name? What's that guy's name? Jones?
He said he voted. He did say he voted for Doug Jones.
Well, I tell you right now. And by the way, tell him to put my email address, my Twitter address on there instead of that Jim from Tuscaloosa.
Hold on a second, Jim Krams. Did you hear Jim a minute ago? Where is his Twitter?
Exactly. I mean, I'm losing followers because I'm endorsing
Jim,
the man that's supposed to be
the reason why you're. Can I give you some advice here?
Leave the dots.
The reason why you're losing followers, you blocked 5,000 people, Jim.
You're right.
No,
exactly.
That's right, but I still gain them, Paul. You know.
Okay. By the way, Danny Krams wants to talk to you.
No, I want him to just put my thing up on the screen.
We're working on it, Jim. I found your account. It's got a lot of
is it the real one?
Stuff. Yeah, I don't know if this is the real you. It's not verified, so I don't really know where to go with that.
Look, it's Jim Tuscaloosa AL. That's all you need to know.
That's all you need to know, Krams.
All right, Paul. Yeah, I guess that's it. Yeah. He's got it, but why don't he keep it up there where I can see it?
Yeah, my question to you is why aren't you verified?
You know, I asked you one time, how do you get verified? How do you do that?
I'm not sure. I have no idea how you. I think you get verified if you're like a credible voice.
You know what verifies it, don't you?
What's that?
Don't you?
Well, no. I mean, I think you apply. I mean, what I mean by that is you get the.
You know what verifies me to the world, don't you?
But I think we got verified because we are a credible voice in our profession.
I know, but here's my point. Do you know what verifies me without verified?
What's that?
I'm followed by Finebaum.
You are. Yeah, it's true. That should
verifies me.
That should get you over the top.
That has got me over the top. I mean, really, since you brought it up, I've noticed many people that start following me, I look and see who they're following, and right behind they're following you, Sheridan, Tim Brando, and they're all in the same line. I mean, we all fit in together.
If you follow Jim from Tuscaloosa, Danny Sheridan, and Tim Brando, do you really need to follow anyone else?
No, not if you want the information, you don't. Right. But anyway, back to Roy Moore. I mean, really, I'm telling you, this man is an ethical man. He doesn't want to abort babies, Paul. You know, I know you don't like that. I know you're not in that ballpark.
What ballpark?
Having a man that would be on record to abort babies.
You know, Jim, listen, here's my feeling on this election. Iman is endorsing the other guy. You're endorsing the judge. So I think we're even, aren't we?
Yeah, we're even, but we don't need to be even tonight. We need to be ahead.
Well, I'm going to sit this one out, Jim. I'm not registered in Alabama any longer.
I know, Paul. You're playing it safe as usual.
No, I'm not, Jim. I'm not registered there, so it's hard for me to vote. But I do know who I would vote for, though.
But yeah, I think I do too. That's what scares me. So I know I ain't changed that guy.
It's a break. I apologize, but we are going to the break. How's it playing safe when you're not registered in that state? I mean, I'm just. What can I say? We've had two of our most famous callers take a stand in the Alabama election.
Well, there you go.
We'll talk about college football, bowls, and ESPN when we come back.
You're listening to the Paul Finebaum Show podcast.
Glad you're back with us. Ron is in Houston. Ron, thanks. Good afternoon.
How you doing, Paul?
Doing great.
Want to say thank you for your show.
Thank you.
When I was recovering from my heart transplant, I made them put you on every day.
Oh, thank you. That's great.
They're in the hospital, and I enjoy it. I do have a question. I'm not going to ask you about our new offensive coordinator, but do you have any news on who A&M may be looking for as a defensive coordinator? I'll hang up and listen.
Yeah, that's a good question, Ron. Number one, I have not heard a lot of names of substance, but I really do appreciate what you said there. That means a great deal that we were able to help you through what can be a very challenging time when you're laid up in the hospital. Thanks so much for that. Appreciate it. Let's go to Reese next in Georgia. Hey, Reese. Good afternoon.
Hey, Paul. How are you? This is Reese.
Good to hear from you.
Hey, it's a little noisy where I had to walk away.
Take your time.
Hey, Paul. I was just had a little conversation with you back in around August about Georgia going the distance. You just laughed and called me a dog fan. So I predicted they'd go 11-1. Actually, I predicted they'd go 10-2. They went 11-1. So we're having a pretty good year, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I think that would be pretty obvious. Reese won the SEC championship and playing in the semifinals.
Oh, yeah. Isn't that great? It's a great year. You called us and just said, that dog fan. He don't know what he's talking about. Now they're going all the way. Hey, real quick, I want to give a shout-out to my boss. Just want to say sorry for FSU's season and better luck next year.
Ned is up next. Ned is on the air. Go right ahead, Ned.
Hey, Paul, man, I love your show.
Thank you.
I think Pete is right. I think I said that yesterday as well. I think that, Fulmer thinks it's fertilizer, that thing, to be honest with you. He's got a big old ego. I can see him on the sidelines with a headset. He wants to be another Alvarez, in my opinion. But the reason why that I called, though, is I want to give you another golf story.
Sure.
And do you remember in the U.S. Open at Oak Hill in 1989 when there were 4 hole-in-ones on one hole?
I do. I believe, wasn't Jerry Pate one of them?
Jerry Pate was one. Who were the other 3?
Hey, come on now! I just pulled Jerry Pate out of 28 years of my memory. I thought that was great, didn't you? I remembered one of 4 people who made a hole-in-one in 1989, and now you want the other 3.
That's right. Well, the other 3 was Nick Price.
Nick Price, of course. That was the next one on my list.
And then Mark Wiebe.
I missed him. I couldn't remember that one.
Okay. And a real close friend of mine who I love dearly, Doug Weaver.
What was his first name?
Doug Weaver.
Doug Weaver.
Dad,
yeah, I've heard of Doug Weaver.
Doug is in South Carolina.
Yeah.
He teaches golf now in South Carolina. Doug's dad played football for Coach Bryan at Kentucky.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, and Doug's son started at guard for La Citadel.
That's a great story.
Yeah, and all the players hit 7-iron.
Okay, this is 1989, right?
1989.
That would have been, let me think, Curtis Strange win that one?
I don't know. That's I think he won it 2 years in a row.
Yeah, I think he won in 88 and 89.
Yeah. Okay.
Because if my memory is correct, I believe Hal Irwin won in 1990.
Yeah, that's right. When he's giving the high fives.
Yeah, I think so.
18.
Don't ask me how I know all this stuff.
Yeah, but I want to throw the argument.
Probably wrong about all 3, by the way.
I want to throw all.
But you know what? From now on in my life, I will know that Doug Weaver was one of 4 people that hit a hole-in-one at Oakmont.
Well, Doug's a great guy. In fact, he was on the leaderboard for, the first 2 days, and he fell off. He did make. He also got in the 1993 U.S. Open at Barterstraw, but and he made.
That was a great U.S. Open there.
Yes, but he said something to me that I will never forget, and he told me that a short pencil is better than a long memory.
A short pencil?
Is better than a long memory.
Hey, by the way, have you ever had a hole-in-one, Ned?
I've had 10.
10?
Yeah.
I'm not talking about putt-putt. I'm talking about like on a real course.
Hey, Paul. I used to play. I had a nationwide.
Oh my goodness! Did you really? Wow, that's really cool.
In '97, but I can't play Dead in the Western movie now.
No, I've had one. My wife has had two. I have a great hole-in-one story, but I'll save it for another time. It's a pretty famous story. Thanks, Ned. Really appreciate that. That was really cool. Doug Weaver, hole-in-one, 1989, Oakmont.
Remember it.
Oakmont is in Pittsburgh, I think.
Right outside.
Yeah. Welcome back to the Golf Channel. We'll have David Duvall in here to talk about, man, getting some serious golf chatter today. Let's move up to talk to Nick next. Nick is in South Carolina.
Nick Faldo?
Nick Faldo is on the line. The winner of he was in a playoff in one of those U.S. Opens. Hey, Nick, how are you?
Good, how are you?
We're doing great, thank you.
First off, I appreciate you taking my call. Me and my dad watch all the time.
Appreciate that very much.
I was wondering if you knew anything maybe about the offensive coordinator position at South Carolina, and maybe what you thought about us throwing some money at Hugh Freeze.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Nick, I would. There's not a better offensive coordinator candidate out there right now than Hugh Freeze. So forget the rest of the names. I mean, to me, it's just a matter of whether you can sell Hugh Freeze to your administration. I've talked to people in the industry, and the conventional wisdom is that he may end up as a consultant to someone, but he's going to end up at Alabama as a consultant if somebody doesn't hire him. So, do you want that to happen, or does someone want to take a chance?
I would like for us to take a chance. Honestly, I mean, I don't know. Do you think it's a possibility? Or
I don't know, but I do know Hugh Freeze is he's a brilliant coordinator. I do know that.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for the call. I do appreciate it. Let's go to the 18th hole. Vern Lundquist is 16. Tiger Woods tapping in for a 9 at 16. He put 3 in the drink. Let's go to Bob next. Hey, Bob.
Hey, Paul. How are you today, sir?
We are doing great. Thank you.
We had one thing in common that I mentioned yesterday, I guess it was, and both our fathers died when we were very young.
Yes, that is interesting.
The other thing that we have in common is I don't have any hair either.
Yeah, well, you and I are the only ones in America that don't have any hair.
I lost mine before you did yours.
I got a couple of. I got a little shrub over here.
Well,
let's think about it for a second, Bob. What else do we have in common? We both.
Wear glasses, Bob?
Do you wear glasses?
Sir?
Do you wear glasses?
I'm sorry, I still didn't understand, Paul.
Do you wear eyeglasses?
Yeah.
Okay, we got 3 things in common.
Okay.
You're from Tennessee, right?
You did keep your hair longer than I did.
Are you from Tennessee?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
4 things in common.
Well, we're a lot alike, I guess.
I'll tell you what.
You're older than I am. No, not really. I'm older than you are.
Bob, I tell you what. We ever got together, we would rule the world.
Well, we have a lot of things in common. I've kind of picked up on that along as we've talked down through the weeks.
Another thing is we both speak very deliberately.
Yeah.
Both have very pronounced Southern accents.
Well, I try to not speak before I think.
That's how I am.
And I picked that up on you too. And I have. Do you have any children?
No.
Okay, and now I've got.
You have a couple. I think you told me that.
I have.
Okay, well, I think we're starting to get into the differences now. Next thing you know, we'll get into politics.
And,
but
I do think we think a lot alike.
We do. We're very, very, very smart people.
And you've done a heck of a lot better than I have financially.
Financially? Are you sure about that?
Yeah, you're doing a lot better than I am.
Okay.
I have
it's
wealthy relatives, but they don't pass any of it to me.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what. Randy, you want to? Hey, I hate to run, Bob. I knew we were on a roll there, but we are going to take a break. More to come. More phone calls. More similarities. More differences. More hole-in-ones. David Faraday will join us next.
Hey girl, have you done something new with your scales? Using new moisturizer? Nice. It really brings out the hazel in your eyes. Oh, hold on. Are you using whitening strips too? Your fangs look good, girl. Really good.
A really charming snake charmer? Surprising. What's not surprising? How much you could save by switching to Geico.
Wait, what? Have you been doing Pilates too?
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Couple hours to go on Decision Day, when the Finebaum voters go to the polls. Let's get some phone calls here at 855-242-7285. And Cheerleader, always one of my favorite callers. Saw her a couple weeks ago in Sweet Home, Alabama. How are you, Cheerleader?
I am so great, and thank you for taking my call, Paul.
Thank you.
And I tell you, the state of Alabama's hopping. If it's not football or Senate race or snow, we got it going on.
Yeah, you got everybody's talking about Bama. It's not even about Nick Saban.
I know it. We'll know in a little bit later on tonight how that's going to work.
I already know who's going to win. I already know.
Do you? The one with the most votes?
No, Alabama's going to win. Roll Tide.
Okay, now listen to me. I loved Judy's call yesterday.
Oh, that was great.
Now, and you know what, Paul? For all the people that call, think of all the people that are out there listening that don't call. And so you're going to be on the radio forever and ever and ever, but I may want you to come back to Alabama and let this be your home.
Well,
base.
I think I talked to you when I was there, and there is a distinct tug of war about doing what I'm doing and going back to where I spent most of my life. So that is a dilemma. I will tell you that.
If you need my help, you just call on me.
I probably will because Cheerleader is a real estate agent, so you would be high on my list.
Now let's go.
Since I no longer own anything in the state of Alabama.
Well, I could maybe see that you do.
I used to have a really nice house that's no longer mine. They took it away.
Yeah, we'll get you another one. Now
okay.
Look, I think I am proud of Dan Mullins. I am proud of Dan Mullins. I think he is a class act. I think he's a class act, and he's going to get whomever quarterback going down there at Gainesville, and they're going to be somebody to deal with. And I'm proud that the interview or the press conference that Jeremy Pruitt spoke to when he became the coach at Tennessee, that was pretty cool, Paul.
It was. He did a great job.
He did a great job, and when he said everybody on that team, everybody's going to know what to do. They're going to know what's expected of them, the attitude, and it starts at the very, very bottom and goes to the very top. And I think that's why Nick Saban is so successful. He expects top dog out of everybody. And Paul, this morning, Morning Joe was down here in Beban.
I must admit, I watched it. I got homesick.
Well, I didn't know about it till this morning.
Oh yeah, I was on there. I've been on there a couple of times lately.
Yeah.
So I heard him mention it, and he did the whole show from Mountain Brook.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And that Laura, she's just a great female sportscaster. She knows as much information. She probably knows more information than 80% of your callers do.
I think you're a little low on that.
Oh, okay. Okay, but listen, Judy's call was out of this world. Oh, and Marcus Spears was in Birmingham last night for the quarterback.
Yeah, I was with him earlier, and he told me he was going. I'd spoken to that group last year, so we were talking about it. It's a great group, and
that's my favorite group, men's group in Birmingham, because they raise so much money for Children's Hospital and so many of the charities around. It's not just about getting together and talking about football. It's about doing something for the community and the state, and it's a nice group of guys in there. And my son got in there this year too, so I'm proud of that. And Paul, what else do you ask me a question?
Well, are you going to? Are you going to the Sugar Bowl?
I am not, but I had a lovely invitation for my husband and I to meet a couple down there for New Year's Eve dinner. But we're going to be at the beach.
Okay. Well, I was just looking for something to do New Year's Eve. I thought maybe I could hang out with you guys.
Well, you can hang out with us, and you just come on down to the 30A, and we'll find you a place and have you a fine dinner and a good TV to watch. How about that?
That sounds great. Hey, thanks very much. But, Cheerleader, always good to hear from you. I'll be in New Orleans, though. New Orleans on New Year's Eve. There's something not quite right about that. Been there like about 20 times on New Year's Eve, and it's crazy. Let's continue with more phone calls. And Hal is up next in Georgia. What do you say, Hal?
Hey, Paul, man. Thanks for taking my call. Great show.
Thank you.
Shout out to Danny and Mark. I guess I wanted to ask you, there's a call you had with Tammy right after the Iron Bowl. I don't know if you remember it. She was, talking about, laughing about her husband. And, I was just wondering what you think her husband's going through with Alabama in the playoff.
Yeah, first of all, By
the way, I do want to wish Tammy, I seen that about her grandchild,
right,
and she did sound like she was doing better, and I do wish her all goodwill and all of that.
No, it's going great. Tammy's, I've met Tammy's husband.
Her poor husband has to be here every day to the playoff. They don't deserve to be there.
Yeah, I mean, how difficult could that be at Tammy's house?
Oh,
when her team beat his, but he's going to the playoffs.
Hey, she got the best of him in the game. Auburn was hurt during the Georgia the SEC championship game. I'm not going to say they would have beat us, but I tell you what, Auburn was pretty beat up. I mean, they were a good football team when they beat Georgia and Alabama.
So true. Very, very true about that. Well, hey, thanks for the call. Appreciate it. Mike is up next in Memphis. Hello, Mike.
Hey, bud. What's going on?
We're doing great. Thank you.
What do you think about the hire from Texas A&M from Darryl Dickey from University of Memphis?
I hear really good things about him.
Fast-paced offense.
Yeah, no, I think it's going to fit in nicely with Jimbo.
I guarantee it's going to. But just wanted to call in and say hello and first-time caller and go Memphis Tigers.
You got it. Grew up watching that team. Thank you very, very much. Appreciate the call. Let's continue with more. And Corey is in Tennessee. Hello, Corey.
Hey, Paul. How you doing?
We're doing great. Thank you.
All right. I was just wanting to ask you, I've read some articles that was calling Tennessee the biggest loser on the hire of Jeremy Pruitt. And I've done my research, and I can't really find anything negative. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I read that too. That was about Pete Thamel. Here's where I think he was going. I think he was looking beyond the hire of Jeremy Pruitt and looking at the catastrophic 3 weeks that transpired from the beginning until the firing of John Curry. Because if you pick it up after Curry was fired, it worked out really well. But
right.
What you don't know is how much damage this university suffered in the process.
Right. Well, I mean, I've heard some of the, some of the ones that committed may have decommitted, and that probably has something to do with that too, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'm going to dig it. Give me 1 second. I'm going to read you exactly what he said. And by the way, I mean, I think Jeremy Pruitt's a good hire. You do. A lot of people do. But sometimes,
absolutely.
But people outside of this area aren't as impressed as we are.
All right, Paul, I want to thank you. I'm just first-time caller, big Orange fan here for all my life. I love you. Love watching your show. My kids love you, too. Thank you, Paul.
Well, that means a great deal. I tell you what, Pete Thamel, I mean, this article has really created do we have him on this week? Is that correct? He is going to be on tomorrow. And I'm just give me 1 second. I want to dig this up because he wrote a column in Sports Illustrated. He will be with us tomorrow. And the theme of the column is the biggest winners and losers from the 2017 coaching carousel. And he was extremely negative toward Tennessee. And I was surprised, but again, it's his column, not mine. He said, biggest loser, Tennessee. I'll just read this to you. I know this is sometimes boring to have somebody read, but I just want to give you the gist of what he said. In the end, Tennessee ended up with an inferior coach, an overmatched athletic director, and setting a new standard for a disastrous coaching search. The hires that former athletic director John Currie was on the cusp of making, Schiano and Mike Leach, are exponentially, big word there, more accomplished and better qualified for the Tennessee job. But Phil Fulmer's power play, this is Pete Thamel, power play ended up with him in control as athletic director and Jeremy Pruitt as coach. Pruitt is just inexperienced enough that Fulmer will be able to keep sticking his nose in the program, which is what he wanted since he was run out of the job nearly a decade ago. This is, again, from Pete Thamel's article. The classic clueless Fulmer moment was treating the press conference to dismiss Curry like he'd just been hired as coach again, as his tone, including introducing his family in attendance. I actually thought that was a nice touch, didn't you?
Yeah, it's no problem.
Showed a stunning lack of self-awareness. Opposing SEC athletic directors, by the way, are giddy to have Fulmer in charge, as his administrative acumen presents little threat to the rest of the league. Expect Tennessee's glory to remain faded. I will let Pete answer, but that sounds like someone who actually respects John Currie. We'll talk to Pete Thamel tomorrow. Can't wait. We'll take a short break.
You're listening to the Paul Finebaum Show podcast.
You're not worth a flip.
Welcome back to the program. We were talking a minute ago about this story in Sports Illustrated. Headline, Friction Between Past Winners and the Heisman Trust Costs Cloud Over the Ceremony. Paul Beban joins us. He's the son of the former Heisman winner, Gary Beban. Paul, thanks so much for being with us. I'm sure I'm the...
I'm delighted to be here.
I'm probably the millionth person to say that I actually saw your dad play in person when I was a little kid. But I did, and it was quite spectacular, and he was, of that era, certainly one of the most memorable players. Let's talk about...
that's so kind of you.
I'm sure as the son of a Heisman winner, and a family member, you've seen it all. Kind of take us through your life in terms of your first memory of this award, and we'll move up to modern day.
Gotcha. Well, I think that's part of the reason I wrote this, and I felt so sort of emotional about the story itself, is because the Heisman, of course, has been a part of my life from birth. My dad obviously won it before I was on this earth, and so the Heisman has been in my home since the day I was born. And of course, this particular part of the story is something Dad and I, as I've grown older, have talked about for years. But I have memories of going to the awards as a teenager, and I think in the longer version of the article on the SI website, I talked about meeting Bo Jackson, and when he put his hand on my shoulder, it just felt like a giant had put a T-bone steak on my shoulder, or when I met Earl Campbell and he told me the story of the fact that when he was he asked me my waist size and told me that when he was in college, each one of his legs was a 34, which was the size of my waist at the time. So that kind of stuff going back as far as the actual players. But the trophy was in our house, and Dad, he was always very humble about it. It was never displayed publicly or in the living room or on the mantle or anything like that. It was up in his library, in his study, sort of in a corner, and he would hang shirts that needed to go out to the dry cleaners on the arm, off of the shelf.
That's hilarious.
And on windy days it was a doorstop, So the Heisman's just been part of the hardware of my life all this time. And Dad and I have been talking about this story for years. And what I realized at some point was, this is a story that I've always found interesting, even as someone who's just sort of, marinating in this stuff my whole life. Certainly sports fans would find it interesting, too. So he and I had a long conversation about how we might talk about it publicly, and I would have to be completely upfront. Look, I have the ultimate in on this story. My dad is part of this, exclusive, one of the most exclusive fraternities in the world, and like Johnny Rogers said, we're the baddest fraternity in the world. We only let in one guy a year. So anyway, that's what I was coming to it with. And that's why I can call up Tim Brown or Earl Campbell's son, Christian, and say, hey, it's Paul Beban. And they're all like, oh, hey, man, how are you? Good to talk to you. Because I've met these guys for years. The Heisman family is something really special. So
to put some context about your dad, he came between Steve Spurrier and O.J. Simpson, just for a point of reference.
Sure. Yeah, and so this year was his 50th year. 1967 was when he won the trophy, and 2017 rolls around, and he and some other winners, some of whom I've spoken to many times, and others that I haven't spoken to as much. For years they've been talking about their feelings about the trust and where things are going. And so Dad decided, on my 50th anniversary, this moment, as he said, I thought he put it quite eloquently, that I see as a highlight, and he joked, the rather short highlight film of my career, because as you know, he didn't have a very long pro career. The 50th anniversary of the trophy was going to be a big moment, but I want to use it to make a statement about this story that has been, unreported. And for me, as a journalist, I'm coming to this unreported story. But for him, it was a chance to say, look, I care about this thing so much, and here's how I feel at this point, in the game.
What have you learned over the years, Paul, in being there and talking to your dad? What are your biggest concerns, I guess, about this whole entity that we call the Heisman Trophy?
Yeah, well, I mean, if you look at, there's two things going on. One is the story of modern American, the pop culture explosion since the 60s is something bigger than the trophy, right? We go from 3 channels on the TV to 3,000. We go from, one football game a week on television to hundreds, whether it's college and replays and ESPN Classic and 3 programs a week. So the world has expanded, obviously. And it's understandable that the Heisman is not going to be as big of a name as it was back in the day when there was simply less on the radar screen to pay attention to. Nevertheless, if you ask 100 people on the street, name a trophy, 99 are going to say the Heisman if they can name a trophy at all. It's such an iconic brand. And Dad and the others feel like it's underutilized and that it could be doing, everyone says this, it could be doing so much more. Why isn't there a real Heisman House where student athletes or just regular college students can come get tutoring, extra help, planning their finances after college, whatever the case may be? They feel like the Heisman as a brand should be more potent and a force for good, as other winners said to me. They want to see professional management involved with the trust. And they're simply frustrated that the board has not been as receptive as they would like to see to their ideas and their involvement in the day-to-day management of what the Heisman is and where it's going.
And, of course, the Heisman's been through a lot. You helped me, but I'm pretty sure 9/11 had a very difficult and terrible effect on the Heisman, did it not?
Yep. Yeah, that was a real turning point, actually. So, the Downtown Athletic Club, as you know, is the historic home of the Heisman. It's where the award had literally lived its entire life. But prior to September 11th, downtown Manhattan has gone through several boom and bust cycles, and the DAC was having some financial trouble. And September 11th put the nail in the coffin because of just the mass destruction. The DAC, for people who don't realize, is barely a block and a half south of Ground Zero. So it, like everything else in the area, was absolutely shut down and considered, basically a toxic waste site until all these buildings were cleaned and so forth. Now, I live today with my family just a block and a half away from Ground Zero, as it happens. And it also turns out I actually have the trophy in here in our home now, and the Heisman Trust offices are right across the street on Broadway. Anyway, back to the finances of the Heisman. After September 11th, the DAC shut down, and the board at that time took the trophy, the logo, the mark, and all the rights, and very cleverly made it into an educational trust, a 501c3. So they protected the Heisman without it having a physical home anymore and made it into this educational charity. So it's only been in its current state for 16 out of the however many years it is now, 83, 85, you tell me. So this is a relatively new development for the Heisman. And the board, again, like I said, made a great move to do that. The winners now feel like it's time for a new stage in the long, hopefully very long life of the Heisman Trophy.
I would like to close, Paul, by just asking you. I know I mentioned this earlier, but reflecting.
Sure.
I know you've offered some very constructive criticism, and I think you and your dad certainly want what's best, and I think we all do.
Yeah.
But just from maybe just a span of life reflection on where this award has taken you in terms of just seeing things and getting to know people.
I mean, this is what. It's the sentiment I think expressed by the winners in the sense that they don't want any of this controversy to impact the kid, as Dad calls him. They want this to be the amazing experience that it's been for all of them. Baker is the kid this year. Eric Crouch told me how much he was looking forward to, throwing his arms around whoever it was and meeting his family and having him meet his kids and knowing that, there's going to be years of experience together. So they all want this to be continue to be something special, and it's always been that for me. I've always had access to a world of these really fascinating people, and been surrounded by the excitement of this my whole life. So I feel passionately about it as well.
It is a pleasure to talk about this. I hope people will read it. We put the link on our Twitter page.
Terrific,
Paul. Thank you very much. What a pleasure to meet you.
Okay. Can I give you one quick thing?
Of course.
Well, when I told my son, who is a far bigger and more fluent sports fan than I am, I don't write about sports much. I'm a journalist, but this was a sort of a first for me. He said, "Oh my God, Dad, you're going to be on the Paul Finebaum show?" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Dad, you realize that's like the NPR of the SEC. They listen to it all the time."
Well, that is fabulous, Paul, and my best to your son, because what cross generation this is, because my dad took me to a game in Memphis, Tennessee, when your dad played against Tennessee. So
wow.
We go full circle from me as a kid with my dad to your kid being actually impressed with something you probably had no earthly idea about. So that's the way the world works. Thank you so much.
Fun. All right, take care. Thank you. Pleasure to be with you.
What an incredible story. That's really cool. That's fun. Paul Beban joining us. We'll take a break, get your reaction to that, and more of your phone calls after this. Welcome back to the program. I haven't seen or heard from this guy. It's Election Day in Alabama. Have you heard the news?
No. Who won? Our man
has been elected senator.
Ooh, boy, I can't wait to all the laws he'll try to pass. But, man, I hate that political crap.
Well, I'll tell you what, it may be over, it may not be, depending on who wins.
Oh, you don't know yet.
I have not. I've got a pretty good indicator, but they gave me an envelope. In this envelope right here, I have the winner, and it will be revealed. Is it, what'd you say, it was more or less than I thought?
Yeah. I think people in Alabama, I don't know, man. I'm just staying away from that. I don't know how much they got on the guy to prove. But I call really to say something to Ed.
To Ed from Connecticut?
Yeah, Ed, quit whining. At least you don't get cut off like I do.
Now, Larry, you're starting to sound like every one of the old Finebaum callers. Don't get enough time on the Finebaum show. I get cut off.
Friday, let me ask you a question. Let me give you dedication.
I tell you what, you just go ahead. Larry,
hold on, just a minute.
And you
hold on just a minute. Hold on just a minute.
No, you
talking about dedication. Friday I couldn't have no TV because of the snow. I sat in my truck with it running, snowing, listening to this show.
Okay.
That's
you sat in a car with it running.
Yeah.
You realize you can be asphyxiated for that, like that?
No, my window's cracked. I used to be a police. I know that. But I'm going off on Jeff from Columbus, Ohio, and all of a sudden, you said, I'm tired of listening to this. See there? Look at what you're doing to me. Look at him. You see?
Keep talking, Larry.
Okay, you going to play that on me, Jack? If I was Jim, you wouldn't be doing this mess. I
Keep talking, Larry.
Well, hey, look. Who's that giggling in the background? Put him on there.
Okay. Larry, we're having some technical difficulties, so just when he tells you to keep talking, that's what.
See, Larry, what happened was I kicked my shoes off. I have a little cord in the back of my head that pulled out the earphone. So okay, so I'm back.
Okay, so you're going to treat me with a little more respect? Because I call this show because my Bama buddies, man, they like hearing me.
Okay.
But just tell me, you promised you would say, all right, I'm tired of hearing you say Roll Tide. And I could say Roll Tide, but you won't even give me that luxury.
Larry, you can say Roll Tide to your heart's content.
I mean, at the end, you cut me off. Who's that back there keeps yakking? But y'all be quiet while me and the professor's talking, okay? We don't need none of you giggling.
Who are you talking to?
What? I'm talking to them goofballs back there, especially. I like that one, but Mark's back there, and me and him ain't.
You don't like Mark, do you?
No, he's a phony.
You call me a pony?
You are. You ain't even a Big Ten or nothing. You're one of them out.
I'm independent, Larry. Mark's a troll.
You are up in the head too. You'll have to pin us up in that noodle. Yeah, you dog Bama, and you do that, and you go after a bad fight. Hello?
You're still on, Larry.
Oh,
I mean Larry, why would I don't want to cut you off because this is such a compelling call.
Right, and Mark, you dog Bear Bryant and get up there and I love
Larry, he hasn't dogged Bear Bryant. Mark, if you're around, you have dogged Bear Bryant's bowl record.
Just a fact. Right. That is a fact, Larry. It's a Bear Bryant had a bad bowl record.
Well, what about y'all? What about your old out in the desert little what's the name of them?
For the record, this is why I usually cut Larry off.
Yeah, okay. Yeah,
what's out? Wait. What's out in the desert?
Who's
Larry?
out in the desert? Yeah, Arizona State.
Larry, let me jump in here, Larry. I've given you about 5 minutes. You've made no sense.
All right, Roll Tide. That's sense. And I'm cut off again.
No, you're not. You're still there, Larry.
Oh, okay. Roll Tide and the heck with Notre Dame. How about that?
That's great, Larry. Now you're cut off. Paul is up next in Jupiter, Florida. Hello, Paul.
Hey, Paul. I don't know if I can topple Larry out there, but I'm going to want to say a few things to you, if you would. My wife recently passed away about 3 weeks ago. We're big Alabama fans, and I wanted to call the show and just to thank you for your show. She watched it every day. We were on home hospice for the last 5 months. You and Laura on Mondays, and the guys, John and Mark, everybody there, kept her entertained. And every once in a while when all these guys get on you and you think that that's all they're doing is just ragging on you, I just want to thank you for all the entertainment that you helped her and I through for the last few months. It was just a pleasure. She's from Birmingham originally, listened to your show for years when you were on the radio up there, and every day at 3 o'clock we'd put you on, and for those 4 hours we could kind of forget about everything that she was dealing with her multiple sclerosis, and she passed in November on the 13th, but you got to see the Mississippi State game with Alabama and hung in there for that, and just want to thank you for all that you've done for us.
I tell you what, first of all, I mean, I'm so sorry to hear that, but I'm deeply appreciative of you sharing that, and And I know I don't. I mean, everyone always tries to tell somebody how difficult it is. There's no way of knowing, but I have had friends with that, and it's a very difficult thing. But what you said not only means a lot to us here, but I think it touches so many other people who are going through difficult times.
Well, I appreciate that, but thank you for everything, and I'm going to give you a roll tide just like Larry does, though, and hopefully they can get it done this year. But I appreciate it, Paul.
Paul, thank you, and best to you and your family. Thank you.
Thank you.
That is
Bye-bye.
incredible to think about. And, I don't know. Nothing is ever easy in terms of losing someone, but I think this time of the year we tend, at least I know I do, get a little more reflective. My mom died this time of the year, and there's no way to ever reach a point like this when you don't think about that or what he just shared with us. But thanks so much. Thanks so very much. We'll take a break. Back with much, much more.
You're listening to the Paul Finebaum Show podcast.
Put a little cherry on the top.
Let's go back to the calls, and Jim is up next. Hey, Jim.
Hey, look, I just, it's on your channel. I mean, during the break just now. Did you see or hear? Did you hear? I just heard it 2 minutes ago. The commercial for the Women's Open. Did you hear it?
No, I sometimes during the commercials we are not paying much attention.
That's what I thought. Well, anyway, it sounded like Timmy B. So he's got a great voice, Paul. You know that. You got a good one. I think I used to have a good one, but hey, that's why I like to hear Danny Sheridan and Timmy B. They are exceptionally good at what they do and exceptionally have tremendous.
Yeah, I was texting with Tim yesterday. We're, as you know, we're good friends and we keep up with each other, even though we're always on different sides of the planet.
Well, I just wish you could get him back on again. I just love to hear the guy talk
get him
about.
on. I
don't care what.
Tim's been on this show a couple of times.
I know that, Paul. I hadn't heard him.
Okay, let me ask you this, Jim. You like Danny?
I love Danny, and I love
Brando. If you could, who else would be on your list of potential?
It's a short list, Paul.
Yeah,
it's a short list because there's not too many classified or classy, outstanding broadcasters, commentators.
Well, anyone. I mean, it doesn't matter who they are.
They are all of the above.
Okay, so you anyone else other than those two?
Well, of course, I like iMonkey. Oh, and Smokey, what's his name? Smokey the Squirrel?
Yeah, I won't ask you who you'd like to see less of. That would probably be...
You just heard the last two.
Yeah.
The two that I just mentioned last are the... I wish I'd never hear from them ever on Earth again. Ever.
I was more thinking of guests as opposed to callers, but that's okay.
Well, no, I know. But the guests that I love are... By the way, this Ned guy, was he trying to top me for outrageous calls of the year? You think people are going to buy that Ned? 10 holes and run, playing with shooting 10 under with Jerry Payton. Come on, Ned. We can buy a little. We're not buying that ranch.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of hole-in-ones.
Paul, I've been around those characters. You talking about an exaggeration? Go to the 19th hole.
Hey, would you
and the 20th hole.
Would you consider Ben Hogan to be one of the greatest golfers ever?
Well, there's no question about it. There's no question about it.
And I found this out after my hole-in-one. Because I was playing with someone who knew Hagen a little bit, Hogan, excuse me. And I'm walking to the. You may have heard this story, but I'm not going to tell the host. I was actually playing around with my wife and Hall Thompson.
I know Hall. I know young Hall very well. I don't know the older man.
He passed away, but he was the founder of Shoal Creek. He was a member of Augusta.
I know all that, Paul. I know the history.
Okay, so I'm scared to death just playing with the guy. Okay,
I understand.
So I make this hole-in-one at the 5th hole at Shoal Creek, which is a famous course in Alabama.
Right.
And
it's his course. He designed it.
Yeah, I'm not really sure.
Gary Player designed it.
Actually, Nicholas designed this one.
Okay. I
thought Gary Player designed North River in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah, okay. Well, I got it mixed up.
So anyway, there's a caddy with us. He's jumping up and down. My wife's screaming. I know better than that excited with someone that well-known and that respected. And, I'm like breathless. I'm walking down toward the hole, and first of all, he handed me my tee, which I had not picked up.
You mean Hall Senior?
Yeah, that's a etiquette. You hit a shot, you pick up your tee.
Sure, I understand.
I mean, I made a hole in one. I wasn't really concerned about the tee. I was watching the ball.
I know.
So we're walking to the hole, and he said, I thought this ended up being part of the eulogy at his funeral, because I told the minister, and he said, he looked at me, he goes, is that first one? I said, yes, sir.
I know what's coming. Go ahead.
He goes,
how many did he make? 14?
He goes, no, he goes, Hogan never had one.
I didn't know that.
And that was the end of the conversation. In other words, it's
Well,
not
that
big of a
compliment.
deal because you actually hit a lucky shot that took one bounce and went in the hole. And that was it. And the next day.
Well, I'm going to tell you something, Paul. I'm going to tell you something. Since you brought that up, here I go. I'll sound like I'm bragging, but I'm telling you, as much golf as I played, and I played pretty well, Paul. I'll be honest. I mean, I really did. I shot in the park,
Sure.
numerous times, and I could play. I never made a hole in one.
No,
but I mean, so many times I hit a shot right next to the cup, and how about this? Let me tell you this. And I have been beaten in match play. That's where you play hole to hole.
Yeah,
I have been beaten 2 or 3 times on the last hole where I had come back to tie the match and go to the last hole. I hit my ball about 2 feet from the hole, and the guy a dummy gets up there, I'm playing, and knocks it right in the hole, and I lose. Now, how about that?
Well, no, Jim, it's pure luck. I
know that.
Because, first of all, nobody in their right mind actually aims right at the pin.
Of course not.
I mean, you're trying to, hit, and the pin I had.
You're spinning the ball, you aiming about 10 or 15 feet above the hole.
You're trying to, that way if you miss it, you can go on either way. But
right.
I can promise you, I just hit the ball. I didn't know where I was going with it.
I never used juice like that on a small, like a par 4. The par 3 I'm thinking about, Country Club Tuscaloosa, was a 125-yard par 3, 9-hole, wedge.
Right.
And I never tried to spin the ball. I just hit it to the flag.
Sure. Yeah, you're trying to get on the green.
It stopped, and I would leave it like a foot and a half, 2 feet, 3 feet. Yeah. Many times, yet never not a hole in one, and I get it made on me by some idiot that can't even play.
Yeah. Was this in the Ryder Cup, Jim, or is this just like a local club?
No, this was in a tournament down at Tuscaloosa Country Club. But, I mean, that was a compliment he was really giving you by saying, Hogan never made one, you made one. Didn't you feel pretty good about
he
that?
had not made one either, I think, was his ultimate point. Oh,
really?
He was a great man, by the way. But this
I know.
was just
His
a funny
son's a pretty
story.
nice guy, too. Believe it or not, I'm telling you the truth. I hope he's listening. I have a ring I can show you with his initials inside that he gave me one night at a church.
Who's this?
Hall Jr.
Oh, okay.
Lives in Birmingham. Wife's name is Tricia.
No, I know Hall.
Yeah, you know Tricia?
I think so.
That's his wife, the young Hall's wife. I better not be talking too much.
Yeah, be careful, Jim.
Yeah, right. But they are good friends of some people that
Family
I know.
show.
Families in Tuscaloosa that I know well. And
okay.
Anyway,
hey Jim, one of these days you and I just get ourselves a golf show on the Golf Channel. Forget all this, okay?
Look, that's good stuff, Paul. What you just said, that story is interesting. I don't care who you are. If you know anything about sports, that's interesting stuff.
No doubt. Well, appreciate the call.
But none of that Ned stuff is too interesting anymore.
You're right
about that.
That
was a one-day thunder.
You're right about that.
He's trying to bring it back every day now.
More golf. Yeah, thanks, Jim.
All right.
A lot of good golf conversation here on this December 12th.
In football season.
I'm not even sure what season this is. Squirrel is next.
I was hoping you'd put me on with him. I asked for you.
It's a holiday season.
Yeah, well, you throw Jim on other callers. Let's throw some callers on Jim. No, I was just going to question everything that he was saying because basically he's a compulsive liar. And so nothing he says, I believe, because he's, like I said, we've called him so many lies. He admitted he
lost in a match play tournament. That was pretty honest.
Yeah. Right. Again, you might believe everything your lapdog says, Paul, but we don't. We're not buying it. But, no, I just wanted to chat with him to see how he's doing. I understand I'm one of his favorite callers. So, again, just wanted some quality time with your lapdog. I'll catch him some other time. Aloha.
Okay. Yeah. I feel like that was not a long call there. Anyway, we'll keep rolling. Linda is up next. Hey, Linda.
Hello. Hey, Paul, the best-looking man on TV, and your stocks are going up according to my sources.
A woman to my heart.
And I would be glad to be your agent. I can make big things happen for you, Paul. Do you believe that?
Well, but by the way, we just let Charles from Reeltown know that he would his services would not be needed any longer.
I know, I heard that.
Well, what do they call that in coaching? Instead of saying you were fired, Charles and I have parted ways, mutually parted ways, and I wish him well in his future endeavors.
I'll tell you what. This
so he's no longer representing me.
This Senate race going on down here in Alabama, it's
is that tonight? I didn't know.
Yeah, well, I think you did, but anyway, my mom told me a long time ago, me and my sister and my brother, don't ever discuss politics or religion with anybody.
No, I had to, listen, you know how I feel about my mom, but I finally, toward the end, quit talking politics with her because she didn't like what I had to say.
Okay.
I once told her who I voted for, and she hung up on me.
Oh, did she really?
Oh, yeah.
But to talking a little bit about football, of course, Alabama football, I think we're gonna. I predict we're gonna beat Clemson. Probably by touchdown, maybe a touchdown and a field goal. We're bringing our players back, and I think they're going to be healthy. All but one, of course. Sean Deion Hamilton won't be because he's out for the season. But I think our players are going to be healthy, and that's according to my sources too. And we're gonna play well. We're gonna get Clemson and whoever we play in the national championship, which would be great if it were two SEC teams. But I hate to say this.
Can you imagine listening the week of that game, Alabama and Georgia? No.
The hype leading up to that. I mean, Saban and a former assistant, which Saban has never lost to a former assistant. 0-11. He's 0-11.
It would be a fascinating week, would it not?
Oh, it would be great. It would be, the hype would be so incredible.
And of all places to have that game, Atlanta.
Yes. And, of course, Atlanta is in the state of Georgia, and Alabama, that's just their home away from home, is it not?
It's just like 5 minutes away. Hey, Lynn, we're up against a break. We will continue final 30 minutes of this program.
Thank you for listening to the Paul Finebaum Show podcast. The Paul Finebaum Show airs weekdays on the SEC Network, beginning at 3 Eastern.